right. We are live. We're not live, but we're getting people on.
All right.
Bringing people on.
Boom. We're in.
Goodness, we've got Mr. Sean.
What's up, Will?
We've got Zed, we've got Sean. We've got some more people who will be rolling in. By the way, if you're tuned into this, you do not need to turn your video on. If you want to, we're more than welcome to answer some questions. If you just want to tune in and have your audio on, that's more than awesome too. We're going to make this a quick but powerful presentation for everyone. Sean, I just saw your post on Facebook. I haven't had a chance to respond yet, but it looked awesome. I love the picture of you. And really excited for this. So I'm gonna get going. We got a small crew. This is actually really good practice we're working on. So we have the three of you here. We're working on a presentation that we're going to be pumping out through ads. So Sean, as you are launching all your stuff, we have two Seans. We have Sean from the UK and we have Sean from the US. And we're actually going to be practicing this. So this is kind of a dry run, but we can answer questions as we go through, which is going to be really exciting. We're really pumped for this. We have Alex. I think everyone on here knows Alex as well. Alex, good to have you.
Good morning, my man. How are you? I guess it's afternoon for you.
It is just turning to noontime, and I'm pulling up the presentation here as we're going to go through stuff. I promise this will be actionable for everyone. And I need to get us live on Facebook real quick. So if you guys can bear with me for just 1 sec, get us up here. We'll get this going. Cool. Awesome. Well, I want to dive in. Sean, that's amazing. So good to hear from you. Sean Float, how are you? How's life?
It's good. Thank you. Just, it's been a big sort of shift working with Liz and reorienting how I communicate and, to actually develop relationships with people. So yeah. I feel very fortunate to have sort of this altering, new path to sort of follow. And thanks to you two for shifting me toward her helping me. So I'm in the ground roots development, learning how to talk, learning how to, converse with people and just really understanding more about what they want rather than what I can offer them.
Yeah. What a great shift to make.
It's huge. It is so huge. It really takes me out of the picture and just really become the listener. And I've actually, my communication skills have improved so much. So.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, since we have a small knit crew here, by the way, this is sort of a test. So I just want to say thank you guys for jumping on. I'd watched a few mentors create Facebook events and then just like invite their whole group and see what happens. So this is totally a test. I don't have any intention to repurpose this anywhere or anything, just testing out different things. As you guys know, fellow marketers yourselves for your businesses, always like testing stuff out. So just kind of curious. I had no idea if we'd have like 50 people, if it'd just be Alex and I, we'd be like, great, this is a dry run for this. So I'm always excited if we just have even one person. So this is awesome. And the benefit, if we keep it small like this, I would love for both Sean Lenigan, I'll ask you real quick, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about your business and who you help, and we'll try to cater this and customize it to you guys.
Okay, so I'm mentoring business owners through my growth code program to crack the predictable, scalable, client acquisition challenge. And I'm focusing on, I have tech-based clients and a few other clients that weren't in my niche, but still resonated. But I'm going to be focusing on agency owners because I've owned an agency for 12 years. So I know the boom and bust all too well. And I've also cracked the growth code. So that's what I'm focusing on.
I love it. I love it. And Sean Float, how about you?
So I'm a physical therapist. So I'm trying to diversify from just my clinical brick and mortar clinic into some online consulting, some personal coaching with really focusing on the through backpackers, the sort of multi-day, that really the rigors and challenges that happen with, carrying your life on your pack and just really trying to get a focus of those individuals that really want to prime their bodies for, these opportunities that a lot of us feel very lucky to even be out in the wilderness for 5 or 7 days, So really helping to find that mind body gear, as I call it, and really helping them to understand how the integrative function of their enjoyment on the trail is based on really the happiness inside themselves.
Yeah, I love it.
I love that you're so specific now with who you're helping versus when we talked a few months ago. Man, you've got that dialed in.
Oh yeah. And it just like it, I mean, as Lori, my partner, says, it just like blossomed me. Like, you know, like I can speak the language, I can connect, and done about 6 Facebook lives. And what felt like a chore in the beginning, or like, it's just been so fun. And I'm, you know, you guys have coached me for so long about don't be afraid to give out content. You know, I've always been sort of this, I got this special little wisdom, and I've just been, you know, put it out there. Yeah, it's like, it's free to see. And, you know, I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make him drink, kind of thing. So it's out there, and it's there for the digestion.
So proud of you, Sean. So proud of you for just putting yourself out there. And I don't know, do you know Alicia Philly at all by chance?
I don't.
I need to connect you with her. She runs a program called The Healthy Hiker. It's a program that mainly works with women who want to do longer hikes, and she helps them with strength, fitness, mindset, nutrition, to do all that. I'd love to connect you just from, sounds like similar worlds of what people are, you know, kind of problems that we're solving. Obviously different niches, but like same. Yeah,
totally. I think, you know, as I was listening to you and Kevin, you guys yesterday, like it even dialed in a little bit more, like what's a specific thing that I don't like the word fix, but I'm learning to let go of that. Based on what Kevin was saying. And so, yeah, the whole breathing thing just has really opened up in terms of, you know, an actual niche area to even focus further in.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. It's really hard to do. I know other Sean, you can relate to wanting to help everyone, right? With everything. I remember the first time we talked, it was like, I can help everyone with everything. It's like, I know you can, I know you're capable. It's like, it's just really hard to break into the marketplace with, I can help everyone with everything. And especially in the online world, if you're local, right, it makes more sense. You can really break through pretty easily with a broader skill set. Online, it's much more difficult to have a generality and break through with your messaging. So I think that's really cool, and something we're continuing to work on as well. And Janice, I'm really excited to have you here. This is totally an experiment as we're going through this, so I'm really excited. I want to help you guys. Sean, obviously, Sean Linigan, I know that you have been on sales calls quite a bit lately, as you've been racking up clients left and right. So kudos to that. Hopefully this will be valuable for you. I want to have some time for Q&A at this. We have a hard cutoff at 1. We've got a client that we're going to be so in 50 minutes, but I want this to be as helpful and valuable as possible. We've been looking at, Alex and I've been helping. I'll just pull this up as we go through this so you guys can see what we're working on here. I'm going to see if I can present this.
I love Canva, by the way.
Oh, isn't it great?
This
whole thing's so much easier.
It's so good.
I'm sure people who've been in graphic design for like 2 decades were like,
yeah,
why hasn't this existed forever? You know, like I can't imagine. What a cool business model too. Like, hey, it's all for free, but we also have some added content if you want the higher up stuff. And such an awesome tool. And I'll just preface too, I have a pretty wild, crazy 4-month-old puppy who right now is that she stays alive. So if for any reason I hold up a finger for 1 minute, I'm just going to get her a treat or make sure she's not trying to jump.
We got you.
So we're human, we're real people. We run a great business. It's awesome, but we're still, Alex has a newborn. I've got a puppy. So we've got real life stuff going on as well that are going on here, but cool. This is the presentation. We're gonna be diving in. My goal isn't to bore you with like, hey, here's stuff you've never heard before. We want to go through the common things that we've been seeing as sort of things that have been holding people back in their sales calls. My big thing of today is if you take away one nugget that you haven't been practicing or could implement, it can make a huge difference in your ability to connect with people. And it's not about just revenue, making sales. We're much more about alignment, feeling fulfilled, and working with the right people, as you're going to see one of the bigger mistakes that we come across in this. So this is how to double your close rate as a consultant or coach. for consultants or online service providers who sell over the phone or Zoom. Truthfully, I think this is helpful for anyone who sits down and talks with someone to make a sales approach to pitch their offer to people. So Alex, we've been working with tons of people in the coaching consulting space now for a while. Yeah, I'm really excited to be diving into this.
Yeah, it's just something that I think that most of the people who get into being a coach or a consultant really come at it from hopefully a passion-based standpoint and an experience or expertise-based standpoint, where you're getting into this as a business because you're really good at doing something and you actually care about the people that you're helping. And for a lot of people in that role, the sales aspect of it doesn't come naturally. It's not something, most people don't become coaches or consultants because they've been brought up in a sales culture. We certainly didn't. And I know that many of you who are on here live right now, or maybe watching, have come from more expert-based backgrounds. And we were there. We were physical therapists. And I think it's funny, actually, I have to renew my license here in about a month and a half as a PT. And I was thinking, man, I sure haven't used that for a while. And you know, those thoughts start to feel like, yeah, is it worth it? Do I need to go get those CEUs? But as I think back now, like, we were just never, ever taught remotely how to sell as physical therapists. And I think a lot of times as experts, that's just something that's kind of glossed over. It's like, hey, you just need to get really good at your craft. And while being really good at your craft makes for great client results, we can't get client results unless we get clients. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. What's that bridge to using your expertise in the right way in order to be able to sell? And this is kind of the brief overview of where Will and I came from as PTs. First, we thought, hey, we kind of stumbled into running a Facebook advertising agency for brick and mortar PT clinics. And it was something that we didn't intend for this to become a business by any means. We just had a passion around learning digital marketing and a small network in the space of physical therapy. And it just kind of turned into us testing stuff out immediately with some friends first. And then once we got some results for friends, it turned into an actual agency. And Sean Lenigan, I'm sure that you experienced something similar as you started your agency. I don't know if you set out intentionally I'm building an agency, or if it just kind of happened organically. But that's how it was for us. We just fell into this role of, oh, okay, we're going to help clients get these results, but we didn't have any clue about sales processes or preparing people to actually buy from us. And so because of that, it started off really slow. But as we started to not only get better at the craft, but how to present our expertise and how to present how we could help people, that whole sales process started getting dialed in for us. And that's what really ratcheted us up. We had the audience in place already. I mean, Will, we had been building an audience for the better part of probably 1.5 to 2 years before we really turned it into a quote unquote business. And it's so interesting. Just having the audience there didn't make a business for us. It was like just the people there didn't do it. We had to figure out how to sell.
And we really dove in. It was a big thing. So we started investing in ourselves. We'll talk about it here. I'm going to run through this, just a little bit of who we are. We know that some people are going to watch this and not know who we are. And Alex and I, we now help coaches, a lot of business coaches, people in the coaching professional space. Once we got dialed in on sales, it really started to help us grow. And to the point now, we've got 60 active clients. We just help with offer, sales, program delivery. Our big focus is on ethical coaching, building good consulting businesses. You don't have to say out loud, but I don't know if you've ever been a part of a coaching program that didn't feel really like they cared about you or ethical, or felt a little promised the moon until you got in, and it was like, collected your money and we'll see you. Our big thing is we don't really like to work with people who that's their initiative. We want to work with people who care about their clients, who care about growing the right way, and maybe not at the fastest pace possible, but really ensure that there's high quality. And we really believe that the industry is going to be shifting that way. There's so many people selling promises that they can't fulfill. We really believe that our big thing is we want to help people who actually care about building a business and not just making sales for 2 years and then see ya, I'm out of here, right? Like that's the world that we're in. It's just a little peek into our clients. But having worked with hundreds of consultants, the biggest struggle we see is learning how to improve their sales skills. So we've got a lot of people who, we're going to talk about one thing that leads up to this of why when sales even matters. But I would say one of the biggest things we see, Alex, is we get people come, they've had a handful of clients, they want more, they're even starting to get people to reach out to them, and they're getting on calls with them, whether that's the phone or Zoom. Sometimes it's even in a email or messenger conversation somewhere, and they just have no real way of systematizing how they're going to close these sales and convert people. And ultimately, at the end of the day, right, we know that a sale isn't just for us to make revenue. It's getting someone to hold themselves accountable to want to achieve an outcome, right? I just went to CrossFit this morning, super expensive. Like, do I want to go? Do I want to go? Not really, like, but I paid a bunch of money and now I have to force myself to go because I know I need to do it, right? I know I need to do the things. Can I go do all the exercises that I just did there on my own without that equipment? Totally, I actually could, right? But I know that if I don't commit, I don't hold myself accountable, it's a lot easier for me to say no. And so that's why we're really passionate about helping people with sales. Obviously, we only work with people who are ethical, and that's why we talk to people before we get into it. But we really want to help you with that. So that's what the bulk of this is about today. So this is for consultants who are already marketing their services on a consistent basis, having people getting on calls with them, but aren't closing the sale with most of those calls. Why I say that is, this is not for the consultant who's not booking calls and is not marketing their services consistently. If that's you, we really believe in this. We want to save you tens of thousands of dollars before investing in programs that will teach you the same things over and over again that we know. We've invested in these programs. I see Sean smirking. Look, it's great, right? If you know all this stuff, but you can't do it, go sign up for one of these programs. We've bought into many of these programs. We don't need to name names. There's all kinds of people out there. And we're just thinking, like, what's different? And here's the deal. You're going to sign up for a $10,000 marketing program. Sometimes it's $3K, sometimes it's $5K. It's this high ticket. Let me teach you how to grow your coaching business. Here's what they're going to tell you. Send friend requests and connection requests every single day on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn to people in your ideal niche. Post frequently on your profile or create a group and post valuable content in other groups where your avatar exists. I don't know about you, but I hate posting in other groups, just trying to bait people into it. But that's what they'll tell you. They'll teach you the basics of copywriting, and they'll teach you, like, get people to Messenger, talk to them in Messenger conversations. And the lastly is they want to help you have an offer over $3,000. Just want to save you that time, save you that stuff. Like, we used to think, oh, that'll be our program. It's like, why is that our program? Like, it's all the same. We know people, you know what to do. So if that's you and you're not booking sales calls, you know the process, right? Sean, versus on the other hand, the other thing that you could do is, if you have capital, you could invest in running ads early on. It's something that for most people who aren't actually closing sales, though, we don't really highly recommend, mainly because it's better to prove that you can actually close sales before dumping a bunch of money into ads. All you're doing is filling a pipeline that's broken, and that doesn't really add up. A broken, hugely leaking pipeline doesn't really work the more water you flush into it. It just leaks out just as much, no matter how much you put into it. So hopefully this helps. If somebody's watching this on the replay, I know you, Sean, I know both of you, Sean's and Lisette. Save yourself from $10,000 if you're watching this on the replay and you're like, I need my first few clients. This is what they'll teach you. This is what you do. We're about being ethical and, like, just, yeah, if you can't hold yourself accountable to do these things, hire someone, totally fine with that. But if you think you're learning some secret sauce that nobody else knows, it's literally right here in these 5 to 6 bullet points. That's what we would talk. Alex, anything else on that?
No, I think it's funny how we all search for, have any of you caught yourselves knowing what to do, but then feeling like, oh, there's got to be something else that I'm missing because I just don't want to do this. And then you just start looking at whether it's, we've caught ourselves in the same trap. It's other coaches or other, like, oh, just dive into other YouTube channels or some other thing or some book. I'm sure there's something else out there that I'm missing. And so you're like, yeah, I gotta buy that thing. And then you get into it and you're like, oh, dang it, they're telling me to do the same thing that somebody else. Crap. Shoot. Okay, well, maybe this isn't the thing. Maybe I got to look for something else. We just see ourselves having fallen into that trap and a lot of other people. And now because of that, it's like, okay, this is the baseline. Once you get your baseline covered, go save yourself 10 grand, just go do those things. And now once you're getting calls actually booked, here's what we need to work on. And now that we've got that whole thing out of the way, let's just talk about, here are the common reasons that we see consultants losing prospects on sales calls. Okay. So I think this is one of the most important as we get into these 4 different things. I think that most coaches don't have a consistent enough process in their sales calls, and it's just random. And they're kind of hoping, like, oh, I hope I can just give my elevator pitch and that'll do it. And then I just sort of like overcome objections and pressure someone into buying. So most people, as we look at their sales calls and talk to them about their sales process, don't have a consistent structure to it. So Will, let's talk about what that structure looks like.
Yeah. So we talk about here, what can be repeated, can't be measured. Is that what I meant to write? I'm not even sure if that's.
I was totally wondering on the slide earlier. I was like, I don't want to change it because I don't know. I'm not quite sure.
What can't be repeated?
what can't be repeated. Thank you, Sean. This was a test to make sure people were paying attention. So we know
Hey, all right.
writing blindly, like what? It's a new education strategy. Write the wrong thing, see how many people are writing it out, and then they're like, wait, what? What can't be repeated can't be measured. So what can't be measured, or sorry, what's not measured can't be repeated, I think is what probably to do. We're just going to pretend that this was well written phrase. And I think you guys get the gist, right? If we don't do things the same way, or at least in the same structure, we can't measure it to improve it, right? It would be like taking, if you want to make the best recipe in the world, you want to make the best, what's a dish everyone makes? Let's just say you want to make the best tacos in the world, right? Well, if you approach it every single time differently, how are you ever going to know what's the best combination, right? And if you don't mark it down, if you don't write it down, what are the ingredients each time you do it, and you go back 3 weeks later, ooh, that one that we did was so good. What was that? I didn't write it down. I don't know. I didn't measure it. I didn't mark down the ingredients. Well, what are the odds of being able to do it again and improve on it? Next to nil, right? The simple thing that we know people will nod their head and go, oh yeah, totally. So we want to, I'm gonna pull this out later. We're gonna come back to this as we go through. We're gonna run through the common mistakes, and then we're gonna go through sort of how to fix these things. So I should have prefaced how this is gonna go. Cheers to experimental marketing here of how we're gonna go through this, but we'll come back to what's the actual structure, should that look like? But one of the number one mistakes we're seeing is that people are not adding structure to their calls and how they're handling this. So that's number one. Number two, you are coaching your prospects out of the sale. If this is you and you are the type who loves to coach, who loves to teach, who loves to educate, please write this down. Please underline it. Please highlight it. Please circle it again. Please coach yourself on not coaching your prospects out of the sale. We see this time and time again. I made a little note here. So if you're writing this down, we see so many consultants coaching or consulting their prospects out of the sale. And this is something that I really want to harp on, which is we've learned that sales is less about educating and more about discovery. What we mean by that, and we're going to dive into kind of what this looks like here in the second half of this talk, is we find so many people want to convince through education that they're the right person to work with. When in reality, we've learned that if you can discover and make someone feel understood at a level they've never felt understood before, they then have the trust to say, I feel like you really understand me. I would like to work with you. And so we're going to talk about what does discovery look like? How do we actually do that in this? We've had some clients lately, Alex, who, as a number 4, we're going to get into this, is we were listening to their sales calls. Part of what we do in our program is we have people record their sales calls. They send it to us and we listen to it. And immediately we knew, it was like, oh man, you're coaching yourself out of this. It was just, here's what you do, solution. What was interesting is they never even got to what was the true underlying problem, because they already started trying to fix problems on the call when they didn't even discover enough of what the real problem was. It's like when, if you have, I don't have kids, but I imagine if your teenagers like, or you have a kid and they say something like, oh, Dad, my elbow hurts. And you're like, okay, hey, let's fix it. What do we need to do on it? And you don't even ask, like, what happened? How'd it go? Like, was it a burn? Was it just a bruise? Like, did you do this? What were you doing? Were you playing? Oh, well, I was trying to wrestle an alligator. Okay, well, time out. Yes, your elbow, we're gonna have to fix your elbow. Hold on, we got a bigger problem here. Like a Band-Aid's not gonna solve you trying to fight alligators. So let's have a conversation for a minute, okay? Your arm, it's gonna be okay. We need to have a talk. What are you doing hanging out with alligators, right? Like, what are we doing here? A Band-Aid's not gonna solve whatever that problem is, right? And it sounds silly, and I like to use like crazy analogies that are just like, what? But I hope it hits the point home of like, why are we even doing this? Why are we making the decisions that we're making? What's really underlying the problem that we have here? So that's number 2. Alex, this one's another really, really big one we see where people aren't, and this kind of leads from discovery.
Yeah. So if we're not helping someone see that there's a gap between where they're at and where they want to be, I'll back up. If someone doesn't feel a gap between where they're at and where they want to be, there's going to be no action for them to move towards that thing, right? If you sit down with someone and this is something that's really hard for me because I'm a pretty positive guy. Will's a pretty positive guy. And it's actually really hard for me on sales calls, quote unquote, to not sit there and just try to help someone feel okay about their situation. Like that's my natural as an empath. I sit there and they're saying, I'm not making sales or X, Y, or Z. Like my natural response is to help them feel okay about themselves. And the hard thing is, well, yes, I do feel like it's important to be empathetic and understanding to someone's situation. If they don't feel like I need to make a change, they're not going to make a decision to change. It's just like, if let's just say you were having, you had a friend that was, I don't know, they were, we were talking with a client who works with alcoholics. So we'll bring this up. They were struggling with drinking every single night, and it was totally starting to tear apart their family. They came to you and were talking about it. And if this was kind of an intervention moment where you really had to say, hey, like, let's talk about this. You got to change something. If instead you just said, yeah, that's okay. You're really stressed. I understand that. That totally makes sense. Yeah, I see why you'd be doing that. But it's totally destroying their life and their family. Are you doing them a service by empathizing and helping them to feel like, oh, it's okay, you don't need to make a change? No. If we actually care about the person on the other end of the line, we want them to be able to like lovingly see that they need to make a change. And that's how I see my role on a sales call. I want to lovingly help people see that they need to make a change, and that there's a gap between where they're at and where they actually want to be. And if they feel that dissonance, that's when they'll want to make a decision. I don't care if they make a decision to work with me. I really don't. Sean Float, didn't we have this conversation when you and I talked on the phone or on Zoom like 2 months ago? And we looked at where you were at versus where you wanted to be. I didn't care if you worked with us or someone else. That's why I said, hey, I think you should work with Liz. Better fit. I absolutely didn't care if you worked with us or not. I wanted you to have the right outcome. But until we figured out, okay, where's the discord, then there's no reason for them to make a decision. And so this is where we see people really getting into their own head about, I have the solution. I need to sell my solution. I need to sell my vision. I need to sell my elevator pitch. And that's what I need to do. We don't need to do that. We just need to help people have the belief that they're truly understood in an in-depth way. And that if we understand their problem, if we understand their struggle, and we know the high level path, we're good. We're good. So, Will, I sort of slaughtered this slide for you. But let's talk next steps here.
Yeah, I think as we're going to go into this, I think what a part of this comes from is so many of us, we lead with marketing, right? And your marketing, you think that attracts always the right person. So we're ready to sell. And I really feel like a lot of consultants skip discovery. They just assume people are signing up and are ready for their services. And instead of doing the due diligence of asking, where are you now? Where are you trying to get to? You'd be amazed how many prospects aren't really qualified to work with you. And it frustrates people because it's like, well, I want to make the sale. And I think at the end of the day, if you can really find that spot of discovery and truly understanding what's in the best interest of that prospect, not only are they going to want to work with you more, even if it's not a good fit, two, they're going to likely long-term think, wow, I'd love to work with that person when I'm ready for them. And it's an ego check, but it's also, that's why we're ethical. We want to be about what's in the best interest of the person, not what's in the best interest of us on this sales call right away, right? It's tough, right? I understand if you're like, I need to pay the bills this month. Hey, I get it. There's that fear that like, I must make the sale. But at the end of the day, if you're building a long-term business, it should be built on working with the right people, serving them in a way that you can help them, not just them buying into a belief that doesn't match with their actual problem. So with that in mind, those are the three biggest mistakes that we're seeing right now with consultants in our coaching programs, where we're working with consultants that are coming to us and what they're doing. So I just want to refresh those real quick as we're going through this. So we've got number one is not approaching each sales call the same way. So we're approaching each sales call differently and not having a structure to what we're doing. We're going to talk about that here in just a sec of what that structure looks like. Two, coaching prospects out of the sale, meaning literally jumping in, trying to solve and thinking that we'll make the sale based on our knowledge and expertise as if that's the thing that people want right then and there. People want to feel understood. They want to know that you really understand what their problem is, and they need help making a decision. Oftentimes, even our expertise, a lot of people can find on the internet for free. No offense to any of us. Like it's a wide open world. It's, hey, do you need help to make this decision together? Yes or no? Three, you aren't establishing clear enough gap within the prospect situation. I will say again, this dives back into discovery, not clearly asking the right questions and asking enough of the right questions to your prospect. Cool. So let's go in, let's show you our strategy for closing more sales calls. I truly believe can double your closing rate if you're working on, if you're having sales prospects. Ultimately, if you're getting qualified people as well, that'll be a big difference. I just want to say that, we like to give credit and respect to where we learned sales from. This comes from years of studying people that we've done with sales. So Grant Cardone, Jordan Belfort, Sam Ovens, Alex Hormozy, many, many others. We're not going to just sit here and go, this is our total unique thing, right? We have our twist, but this is studying years and years of people who are excellent at sales. Alex, I know you have some of your own sales mentors. I think it's just also always nice to say, like, give credit where credit's due. Cool. Alex, how about this one? How do we actually make sure that we help people? So we've got 4 steps here, I believe. I can't remember how many I wrote down, but I think 4.
Oh, yeah.
And 3 or 4. This one we I think can totally double your sales calls easily by just this one step. Alex, what happened before we were qualifying people on calls?
We were getting a bunch of people who we would say, oh, nobody's a good fit for our program, right? If you find yourself getting on, I'll just ask you this. How many of you put in the comments, how many of you feel like, if you've been getting on sales calls, how many of you have gotten frustrated when you feel like, the people who are getting on these calls just aren't a fit at all? Like they're not ready. They don't have the money. They're just totally not qualified. Have you ever felt frustrated about kind of the level of person that you're dealing with, the level of potential client that you're dealing with? If so, just put me in the comments, because I know Will and I have been here. And this is, I think, one of the biggest upfront things that people don't do before their sales call is ask the right questions of someone before they're getting on a call with them. Now, early on into business, I'm totally fine getting on a call with anyone because I need to practice sales. Cool. Like I'm going to get on with it in as many reps as I possibly can so that I can figure out who's not a good fit, right? The fastest way to lose a sales call, though, is by speaking with someone who's not qualified in the first place. And so we use strategic questions in something like Calendly, which is just our scheduling service. It's free, or it's like $10 a month, or some other kind of online scheduler. Some people use Acuity, there's Schedule Once, there's a bunch of them, right? And we ask a basic set of discovery questions when prospects book calls. There's like 4 or 5 of them that we usually like to ask. But I just want you to think about, what are some questions that I could ask that would help me know if someone is a good fit or not to hop on a call with me or to work with me. And if I can't figure out what those questions are, like, I need to start looking at, okay, what makes someone not qualified? Like it's pretty simple. And so we just go through, this is what we do with our clients. We help them figure out, what do these questions need to look like? And how do we actually implement this so that when somebody's getting on a call with you, you know for sure that they're at least they meet the baseline requirements.
Yeah, I think, Alex, one thing is, as we look at this, what we really help clients with is what are your internal qualifications for working with people? Do you have a set criteria? So Alex and I, at this point, we have whether it's a revenue minimum criteria, if you're making at least $3,000 a month in your coaching business, or it might be that you have a successful other business and you're dabbling into coaching, that it's not for us, one qualification is, would you have to put this on a credit card that you couldn't pay back within 30 days? If the answer is yeah, it's not a good qualification for us. Like, we don't want this to be a make or break thing for you here. Now, am I saying that no one should ever do that ever? No, but it's an internal KPI we set for ourselves. It's an internal qualification that we've set for ourselves. 2, like, is your main goal to make money or to build like an ethical business that can be sustainable? And if the answer is I want to make as much money as fast as possible, hey, internal qualifier, probably not the right kind of person to work with us. We've gone that route before, and it's frustrating. It's really tough, right? It's hard to get somebody that result really quickly. So we set internal qualifications. And so your questions are based on, what are my internal qualifiers to work with people? What are those things? And I highly recommend that you start setting those for yourself. Does it limit the amount of people who might be right for your program? Totally. But I can tell you, not only is it the fastest way to lose a sales call, I think it's the most dangerous way to build an actual business is to make sales to unqualified people. I don't know about you guys, if you ever worked with somebody who you like, this is why we don't ever sell anything via a link. Nobody can go purchase something on a link from us, at least nothing that's over $500 to $1,000. You can't buy something on a link. Like, you can't just go on a link, because what happens is somebody comes in, we talk to them a month later and like, guys, this isn't what I thought it would be. It's this. And I asked them, well, where are you at in your business? Well, I just started. It's like, well, yeah, this isn't for people who just started. Did you not read the sales page? Like, well, I knew I'd need this in the future. I wanted it. And now I'm having to give a refund because I feel bad or I feel guilty. And because we're good people, we're nice people. I'm not the type who's like, I don't care. Well, it's your fault. No, like, I take accountability. Great. What is the mechanism? We used to do this. So we implemented a mechanism for ourselves, which is you can't just click on a link and buy our stuff. Because we had to take accountability for people. The people who came into our programs got 20 to 30%, got incredible results, like incredible results. But that still meant 70 to 80% weren't even completing the programs. And we used to listen to a mentor of ours who said, well, that's their problem, right? Like that's on them. You know, they're the ones who committed to it. Well, 70 to 80% over time is like, I got to start taking some accountability. I got to start taking some responsibility for these results. I'm not going to just say like, I'm going to make $1 million off of 20% of people getting results. I don't feel good about that. I'd rather make less and know that people are getting it. So we had to create a qualifier, which is you can't just buy from us until we talk to you and make sure you're a good fit. So I think it's really important. And when we stress this really highly, that you have your internal qualifier set in place as well. And I think your reputation, the respect of your clients over time will lead to higher word of mouth. I didn't even write this in here, but I truly believe that over time, because you are actually qualifying people. 2.
So
go ahead.
I just want to pause there for a second. If you're watching the replay, literally pause this for a minute. And I want you to sit down and think about what are 3 or 4 questions that I could ask someone before they get on a sales call with me to make sure that they're a good fit. How can I qualify or disqualify them based off that? And then the question is, well, what if somebody schedules, but they aren't qualified? Well, we just email them back and kindly let them know, and we point them towards a resource that's more appropriate for them. Cool. So, because I want this to be actionable too. What we hate in others and ourselves is consuming without doing the thing. So like pause, think about this, and then implement it. Your business will be so much better off. Cool. All right. Next, let's talk about adding structure to sales calls. So now we're filtering out the majority of people who aren't a fit for us. And now we know that, hey, probably 80% of the people that we're going to get on a call with are a decent fit. Okay. Because we can't filter out everything and everyone and everyone's life situations in a couple questions. But now we're going to approach each call with a process, with a structure. Now, this structure is, I'll be honest, I'm one, if you've been on a call with me, you know that I'll flow a little bit off of this, but I'm still always hitting the core things of this structure. And that's after being on hundreds of sales calls at this point, just like, hey, I'm comfortable enough in my own skin with how I'm going to present a call that I know that this is how it goes. Early on, I had to have it like written out. Okay, first thing I do this, next thing I do this. And I recommend that for you if you're newer to sales. If you're on here and you need to improve your sales, you should probably have a written process, not that you need to have written word for word, but know where you're taking the call. If you don't know where you're taking the call, the prospect who's on the other end can really easily take advantage of you. And it just ends up being a free coaching call where you're not actually digging into the pain. You're not actually figuring out what the problem is. And it just ends up being a pick your brain session. And I don't want you going into this with a pick your brain session mentality. Cool. If anyone says, hey, I want to pick your brain, that's a bit of a yellow flag for me. I'm totally fine with people picking my brain. But if we're going into a call, if this is, hey, this is a call, no, we need to be upfront. We need to know. I don't want to hop on a call where someone thinks they're picking my brain and it turns into a sales call. I don't like that. So let's be upfront with what this is, and let's be clear about how it's going to run. So this is how we run a call. Okay. Number 1, we be good humans, AKA we establish rapport. I think it's sad that we have to have this as a step in the sales call framework, but I think sometimes we have to be reminded that sales is simply human conversations. That's it. We're not robots. So build rapport. How do we build rapport? Talk about human things. Hey, where do you live? What do we have in common, right? My goal with rapport is to establish something that we have in common. And is that a sales tactic? No, it's a human tactic, because I do that with everyone, whether or not I'm in a sales conversation. I want to establish what do we have in common. Next, I'll often set an agenda. Great. So here's how these calls go. I want to dive into what the biggest problem is in your business. We want to figure out first, I want to get some background on where you're at. We want to figure out what the problem is. Want to look at what the potential solution would be. I want to help give you a game plan of what I'd be focused on. And we look at how we might be able to help you if it's a good fit. Does that sound okay? Yes, it does. Cool. Then I've established what we're going to do. And then it helps to remind me and cement in my head, this is the plan. Okay. Will, I don't know if you had anything that you wanted to dive in here with before we keep going through this.
No, I think the biggest thing with that is human nature is we like to be led, right? Like when you're invited to a party, I always think about this. If you're invited to a party and nobody greets you at the door, and that's rapport, greeting someone at the door. Hey, welcome. So glad to have you. This is awesome that you're here. And then they don't tell you where the bathroom is. They don't tell you what food is like available to eat, like what rooms you should go in, what shouldn't go in. Hey, how I'm going to introduce you to some of these people. If that doesn't happen, you're just sort of wandering aimlessly, and you start to come up with rules in your own mind of how this is going to go. You're like, well, I'm going to stick to these rooms because I know where to go. And you start dictating how you interact in this party versus somebody saying, hey, here's my friend Alex. He has something in common with you. I want you to talk to him. I'm going to come back and get you in 15 minutes with some food. And here's what we're going to do. And then we're going to do this with this game. And then we're going to play this over here. Everyone's going to come in here. We're going to have cake at this time. This is how it's going to go. And you're like, cool. I can feel led in what's going to happen in this event. And too often we don't do that. And when conversation is a dance, and if you don't lead the dance, somebody has to lead. And oftentimes your prospect will lead. And then you're on the defensive of following footsteps rather than guiding someone to an end destination, which is the point of conversation. So yeah, totally, Alex. I think setting that agenda is one of the things that changed the game for me. And I use that as a way to break rapport. So rapport at some point is, I have to end rapport at some point with, awesome, great, dude. Hey, by the way, we're here for a reason. Here's how this call is going to go. I haven't met somebody who's like, well, I don't want the call to go that way. If that happened, I would probably say, hey, well, sorry, like that's the point of this call. Sorry, there's a misunderstanding, but I haven't had it happen. Most people enter into a conversation wanting to be led, and you need to set the agenda to lead them.
And I think that if you look at it from the perspective of the prospect who's on the other end of the call, which hopefully all of us have been on that side of the call, what does the prospect want? Well, the prospect is there a little bit nervous, right? Like the person on the other end of this is a little bit nervous because they're in a sales situation. And if they know that, then there's going to be a little bit of like nerves, and they're not quite sure what to expect. Like, are they just going to sit there at metaphorical, like, are they going to be putting really high pressure on me? Like, is this going to be a high pressure sales call? Like, I let people know that up front. Like, hey, this isn't like a high pressure call. I want to discover where you're at together. I want to help come up with what's blocking you from progressing towards what you actually want to hit. What's the plan for it? And then how could we play a role in that if it makes sense? And I think that sets people at ease too, to know, cool, this call is going to be about me. It's not just going to be about how great you are, right? So once we establish that, then we got to look at what we call current state. Shout out to Sam Ovens for this phrase. Current state is, where's your business at right now? I like to think of it as, we call it the sales mountain. Cool. Where are you at right now at the bottom of the mountain? Okay, great. So I want to find out about their business, about their life, whatever it is that's pertinent. I want to find out. And I want to establish, what is the current pain? Okay. What is happening? Hey, I don't have, I'm only at 2 calls a month. Why is that happening? Okay. Let's talk about that. How come? Well, this or this or this. Okay. Interesting. I'm in data gathering, discovery mode. Okay. I'm not coaching. Oh my goodness. I'm not coaching. I'm not jumping in here. This is the part where I'm asking questions and just getting answers. Okay. That's the portion of this call. Then we move into discovery of desired state. Great. Where do you want to go? Okay. I call that the top of the mountain, right? This is the sales mountain. Here's the bottom. Here's the top. Where do you want to go? And then establish the gap. Great. So right now you're telling me you're at 2 sales a month, and we really need to be at 8 a month in order to hit your financial targets. And then I want to know, what does that mean to them? How does that make them feel? Why is it important for them to get up there? That's establishing the gap. Great. Well, if I could be at 8 sales a month, I feel like I'd have a stable business, and I could step down from my part-time job and really support my family. Interesting. So if you were able to do that, how would your life feel different right now? How would your wife feel about your job, about your business? How would your whatever thing that's happening, right? And then once we get that, then I verify findings. Say, great. So from what it sounds like, you're here. We really want to be here because you want to have a business that your wife feels really confident that you can keep going into full time. And it's something that you've wanted for years. Now it's finally the time to do it. But we haven't figured out, how do I get on more calls with the right people? Does that sound right? Yes, it does. Cool. So can I talk about what I feel like the roadmap would be for you getting here? Yes. Great. Here's what I would focus on. Number 1, number 2, number 3. And it's this is how we help people. We help people with 1, 2, and 3, right? This is where we then get to presenting the offer. And I don't want to linger here too long because I know we got other stuff, Will. But that flow, set rapport, set agenda, discovery of current state, desired state, what's the gap, verify findings, and then we get into presenting the offer. Yep. If you can follow that general flow each time, you'll set yourself up with the most potential of success, because we're focusing on the person and their problem. We're not focusing on what's my solution. The solution doesn't matter unless they have a problem that the solution can fix.
Yeah. No, our favorite thing is Janice has narrowed to 3 points. You can, Janice, if you want to. if you want to play back, ultimately what we want to do here is right after verify findings, I should have written this in, and this is why we call it sort of consultative selling, is as you're listening to this and verifying your findings, you want to ask yourself, like, great, does my solution actually help this person with this problem? We watch so many people try to sell people into something that it's like, did you listen to them? Like, your offer doesn't even make sense for where they're at and where they're trying to get to. And they're like, yeah, but I was here for a sales call. And it's like, well, okay, like that's not the point. The point is, like, does it fit? And so oftentimes we listen and we're like, oh, I really understood what your problem was. So Alex with Sean. And it was like, I don't think our solution is actually the best thing for you based on your current situation. Let me refer you to someone. Let me provide you resources. Hey, I'm so sorry that, we took this time, but I'm really glad we didn't roll you into our program. That doesn't make a lot of sense for where you're at. So we do that first, and then we present the offer. And Janice, how we present the offer, which would be a separate thing for the 3 points, would be the points that we reflect back to them are what makes sense based on what they told us their struggles are, and does our offer solve those problems? So let's say I have 8 points of my offer. I have all these different things that are in it. Well, if I know they have one problem, I'm only going to make my presentation to them or present the offer to solve that one problem. I'm going to focus on the one thing in my offer that helps them with that problem, right? If I just need I don't know, let's come up with a simple scenario here, which is like, I just need to add in an apple to my diet to have better. Well, if somebody's like, well, I'm going to also send you an apple every day, and then you're going to get a blender, and you're going to get, I'm going to send you Hello Fresh meals every week, and you're going to get, DVDs on all this stuff. And it's like, whoa, that's awesome. But, if we could have just focused on the apple, that's really what I needed. Great. Like, I'm in. You convinced me that that's what I need, and I need help with that. And your program offers that. I don't need the 9 other things. It's awesome that comes with, but like, presenting that back is not important to me. I need to know that you're going to solve the one thing, or whatever those things are that came up in discovery. So it shouldn't be about, it should be congruent with what you find in your findings. And that's another thing. I'm glad you brought that up, Janice. We see this a lot, Alex, where we can listen in on sales calls and you hear the one or maybe 2 things that pop. It's like, that's the thing they need help with. That's what they want you to sell them on. And then, it's time to talk about the offer, and it's, well, let me lay out the whole offer here. We got this and this and this and this, and we're gonna do this.
So we have this option or this one, or you could have this and that. And it's like 30 different things. Oh, it's terrible.
It's like, if you'd actually just narrowed it down to that one thing and how you can help with that one thing, people would be really excited to sign up for that. And then they'd be blown away by the other options or the other things that come with it, rather than like, you get focused on what you offer rather than like, again, how it ties into congruency with this person and the need that they have. So it's actually a great question, Janice. Thanks for bringing that up. Oh, by the way, if you want our full guide to this breakdown, you can just shoot me a message at m.facebook.com/willboydpt. If you're in our group, you likely already have this, but I just put this in here as if you're watching this, you need it, send it over. It has our sort of script of how we do this. 3, Alex, you're amazing at this. One thing that we try to help people with is planning for objections before they arrive.
Yeah. My goal is that when I'm hopping on sales calls, after I've had enough of them, probably 10 or more, I'm going to start to get a really good sense of what are the objections that people are going to come at me with. I want to know ahead of time. I want to list out ahead of time on a piece of paper or a Google Doc, what are all the objections that I'm likely to hear and how am I going to respond to those? Okay. I don't want to be surprised with objections. Common objections, money, spouse, business partner, timing, don't know if I can do it. Don't know if this is what I need, right? Sweet. So make your laundry list, but then the best way to overcome objections is to overcome them before they even come up. Okay. So it's the salesperson who's able to see them in advance and build the conversation in a way that addresses them in real time who wins the most. Meaning, I want to sit there and if timing is an issue for someone, and I know that, hey, this is something that I really want to do in 3 months. Great. That's an objection we really started getting before the new year. Is people were telling us, I don't want to get started till after Christmas. Okay, I started getting frustrated with that. I started hearing it in late October. It's like, okay, so you're planning 3 months out. Why didn't I come up with that early on? So just asked a simple question. As we were in the discovery phase, great. How long are you okay staying at 2 sales a month? How many more months do you want to stay in that? Well, I don't want to. So how soon do you want to solve this problem? Well, right now. Great. That overcomes the objection, because then they can't say, hey, I want to do this in 2 months, right? If that does come up and for some reason I haven't covered it, well, then I can ask, okay, so what you're telling me is you're okay for the next 2 months with only making 2 sales before you start improving that. Well, I guess no. No, I'm not. Okay, well, let's talk through that, right? Will, you're about to say something good.
No, I'm watching my
Okay.
dog. He's about to jump off.
You're good. You're good. Okay. But I'll just say that some of the objection tools that we help our clients with, having a story in place. This comes right out of Russell Brunson. I believe is it Expert Secrets? I think it's Expert Secrets if you want to read it, where he talks about the different types of objections and stories to overcome them. So you can look at that list of objections that you've written out and think about, okay, what is a story that I can tell either from my experience or an experience with a client that could help to overcome that objection? Really, an objection is just a story that someone's telling themselves, like whether it's a money objection or a time objection or a spouse objection. Okay. We overcome objections by inserting new stories. Pain of inaction. So we can look at what is the opportunity cost of them not acting. So they might say, gosh, I feel like I'm close on having the money, but I'm not sure that I can put that out right now. Okay, well, how much is it actually costing you each month? You told me that right now, you could be getting 4 extra clients a month. How much is each client worth? $3,000. Okay, so that's $12,000 we're missing out on this month because we don't have this solved. Yeah. Okay, so the cost of inaction is $12,000 versus my solution, which is a $3,000 program or whatever it is you're selling. And we can help show them that imbalance. Okay. And then the last one is deposits. This is something that, shout out to Tom Worth and his coaching team. We didn't do this until I started working with David from his crew, which was taking deposits. This is something that I just never knew you could do. It didn't occur to me that it was ethical either. Like I just didn't think about that. When somebody is a good fit, and when the objection is more logistics based, like, hey, I got to get the funds together, or, hey, I need to talk with a business partner just to make sure, or, hey, I'm not going to be ready to start for 2 more weeks. Cool. So here's what I'd propose then. We take a deposit today. We take a refundable deposit that we can apply towards the payment for the program. And we'll put something like, whether it's 500, 1,000, whatever, we'll have you put that down today. That secures your spot in the program at the current price point. And it'll get you on our calendar for when we get started in 2 weeks. How does that sound? Yeah, that sounds great. Cool. So we can take deposits to help them actually make a decision without having to fully invest right now.
Yep. Great things too. It's like, hey, I need to talk to my spouse, right? So that's when we help someone who's like, I'm really committed. Great. Let's get a $500 refundable deposit down, right? Take the ease off of like, yeah, I'm committed, but you already feel like you're going in sold to talk to your spouse. We also talk about things that we do here with like spouse or money is we are different in that we're like, why don't you set up a second call? See if you can get the spouse on the call with you. Part of the reason is they don't know the spouse doesn't know you or trust you like the prospect does. Of course. So what's the difference? Do you think is their ability to convince them of their trust in you higher than your ability to talk with them and show them that you're a trustworthy person? It's usually that. It's like, whoa, $3,000, honey. I don't even know who this person is or what this is or what are they talking about? Yeah, like, right. We've all been there. It's like, that's, even if you have that much money, it's not a lot of money to you. You're still like, I don't know. I don't know who this person is. Do what's in their best interest. Hop on a call with them. Get on a second call. If you're selling something that's $25, okay, maybe not the best use of your time. Assuming you're selling a high service product or service for someone, totally worthwhile. Alex, I think this
last thing, Will, I just want to answer this 30-second question here by Tara, who says, what do I do for like a mom who says, hey, I need to talk to my spouse about it? So there's a couple ways to think about this. I think about it as a human, and I have these rules too. I don't make important decisions without my spouse. We make those decisions together. Look, I'm a human. And so I'm going to treat the person on the other end of the line like a human, not just a credit card, right? Waiting to pay me. So I'll say, great. I respect that. What is there anything else about this that you feel like wouldn't be a fit? If your husband were on board, would it be a fit today? Yes, it would. Cool. I make sure that that's not a screen for something else. Then I say, great. What if we give you a day or 2 to talk with your husband, and let's schedule a second call for a day from now, for 2 days from now. Maybe we even bring your husband on for that one so that we can talk through things. He can get to know us and feel comfortable about the decision. How does that sound? Yes, that's great. Okay, boom, go for it. Like we can easily do that too. Okay, treat people like humans. They're not just sitting there as vending machines for you to get money out of. So then last one, reviewing your sales calls like a professional athlete. One of the things that made Kobe Bryant one of the greatest athletes in basketball history was he was such a student of the game in reviewing how he played and what he did wrong. And it was really interesting. He gave a story one time. I'll keep this brief because we got to go in 2 minutes. But he said that, at the end of his rookie season, he was shooting threes really crappy. And he said, I went back and I looked at the game film and I realized it wasn't anything with my shot. It was my legs. I was getting too tired. I couldn't jump high enough to get my shot right. And so I knew that I had to put in work in the off season for my legs. Boom. The next season turned around. He was a great 3-point shooter. You need to treat your sales calls as if you were an athlete reviewing game film, which means you need to record your calls, every single one of them, and you need to go back and review them. And you should have a coach review them for you. If your coach isn't willing to do that, look for a new coach. I think that having outside input on your sales calls is incredibly valuable. And that's how we view our own sales calls. I like to go back and watch them. See, great. What was the real pain? Where was the objection that I didn't overcome? What could I have said differently? How could I have done it? And y'all know that there are times when you think of a comeback like 2 days after someone says something to you. Well, the same thing happens in sales calls. You'll probably have great ideas as you go back through it.
Yeah. So what changed our ability to double our sales call closing rates? These 4 things: qualifying before calls, adding structure to our sales calls, planning for objections before they arrive, and reviewing our calls like a professional athlete. I had a grammar mistake in the last one because I said "and professional athlete," and I thought about that's weird. I'm usually pretty like grammar heavy or a snob, and I was like, because I wrote "an athlete" at the beginning, and then I was like, no, not all athletes actually have great success. Who has success? Professional athletes. What do professional athletes do? They're required to go in and do film study every single week. Like, it's a non-negotiable. You can't be a professional athlete and not do film study. And so I realized, I was like, ooh, I'd started writing an athlete, and it was like, no, like a professional athlete, you've got to review it. I hope this has been helpful. We're going to wrap up here. We were going to talk into kind of what we do for stuff. I think for today, I just want to make sure we got a small crew. I want to be able to help you guys. If you're having struggle with this stuff though, and you don't have anyone who's reviewing your calls, it's one of the greatest aspects I think that we offer in our coaching and our program is we actually listen to people's sales calls. So if you're struggling with that, we blur their faces and cover up their names and actually listen to it, something we can do. Most importantly, I wanted to test out this experimental marketing experience of doing a Facebook event. So I want to say thank you guys for attending this. I hope this has been helpful. Just like on a thumbs up scale of super negative to very positive, how's it been so far for those who are on video? If this has been helpful, not helpful, cool. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. Awesome. Alex, anything else? I know we got to run to a call. Janice says, good stuff, guys. Really appreciate it. This has just been a game for us in helping people.
I'll just say, if this is something that you want help with, this is what we do with people. This is what we walk through to figure out for your business. What does it need to look like? What does it need to look like for prepping for sales calls? What does the pipeline look like to get people on there? And if you're not closing sales, we'll sit down and review a call and walk through that with you to help you change that. If it's something that you want help with, you can go to healthyfunnel.com/grow and you can hop on our calendar and we can sit down and look at, okay, what's working in your business? What's not? Does it make sense for us to work together? We'll ask you some questions too beforehand so you can see. And that's, I think, a great, like, okay, what's a live example of this? Cool. Healthyfunnel.com/grow is a live example of how we would set up our sort of sales preface page, right? Like how are we screening people? You can go check that out and you'll realize it's not perfect. It's not the prettiest page in the world, but it works great for the business. And if it's something that you feel like you need help with, you can find us there.
Cool. We'll see you guys. Take care. Sean, thanks for having on. Sean, thanks for having on. Janice, thanks for having on. Lisette, we'll see you guys soon.